Hello and welcome to the Armourer with me, Blue, and today I want to show you my very first draft of Kassai with the limited amount of cards we have at the moment, and just talk about some of the interesting things we can do with Kassai and kind of like how I feel the deck is going to be built when we get the remaining of the cards. So starting with Kassai, she says if you draw a card this turn, your sword attacks cost 1 less to activate, and then once per turn we can banish 2 reds and 2 yellows from our graveyard, and the next time a weapon we control hits a hero this turn, we create a gold token. So basically the whole idea with the gold token is that the gold token is going to allow us to draw a card every turn, right? Gold tokens have action for 2 resources, destroy this card, draw a card, go again. And we need to banish 2 reds and 2 yellows in order to give our swords this on-hit effect. So following that, I feel like the Kassai deck is going to play very similarly, or is going to be built very similarly to the way Bolton is right now, where Bolton right now plays basically 0 blues. He's only playing reds and yellows, and I feel Kassai is probably going to follow in those same steps. With maybe very few exceptions, because things like Glint the Quicksilver being a blue is still a very strong card in my opinion, and we'll see some more. And yeah, just basically starting our turn with pitch a yellow to trigger the gold, draw a card, and now our Centauri Sabers are free to use basically. So kind of we pitch the yellow that we would have pitched for Centauri Sabers, we just recycle it, is the whole idea, and that seems pretty powerful, right? Like not having to pay for the weapons. So coming with this knowledge, we will probably be playing Crown of Dominion. Crown of Dominion allows us to just start the game with the gold token, allowing us to just right off the bat on our first turn that we want to put pressure. We'll be able to just use Kassai to basically use the gold token in order to use Kassai's ability to reduce the cost of our sabers and just go off without having to ramp up, right? Because otherwise we'll need to find a card that like draws us something, or we will need something to be printed that just creates a gold at the start of the turn. So yeah, I feel like unless we get like a warrior equipment or something that allows us to generate gold or allows us to draw a card for the cost of something, Crown of Dominion is probably going to be the go-to. Next, I feel like Gorganian Tome is another card that is probably going to see 100% playing Kassai, simply because it follows the same logic, right? You just play Gorganian Tome, which basically recycles itself, so you actually did absolutely nothing, but it triggers Kassai's ability, which now means you've essentially paid 2 resources for just like, you gained 2 resources by playing Gorganian Tome. Another thing that we'll probably be playing is Armourer Maltese, because it's like one of the wagers we have available right now that is generic, that is going to allow us to generate gold. And generating as much gold as we can is definitely going to be something that we want to do. Having cards like Armourer Maltese available, I think, is going to push us to want to play a little bit more attack reactions in the deck in order to try and secure those wager hits in order to generate not only the gold from Armourer Maltese, but also the gold from Kassai's ability. Because probably our late game plan is going to be, if the deck is hopefully able to generate enough gold to then just play something like Raise the Army, which says this is an additional cost to play, destroy X gold tokens and create X Centauri Cell Swords for that amount of money. And the Centauri Cell Sword says once per turn for 1 resource attack, and it has go again, and they attack for 3, and they can only attack if you've attacked with a weapon this turn. So basically the idea is that we will create like 2 or 3 of these Centauri cell sorts. I think the least amount is 2, so that we can pitch a yellow, draw a card, play one of the go again enablers, attack with a sword, and then just like pitch another yellow, especially late game when we have like all of our yellows rotating back, to just attack with the Centauri cell swords yet again. I'm not sure how powerful that's going to be, but this is definitely an incentive for us to generate as much gold as we can. Because even if we are unable to utilize all of the Centauri cell swords in order to attack with, having a bunch of them is going to allow us to attack with at least 2 of them, for example, for more turns, right? Because it's going to be harder for our opponent to like kill 6 cell swords, or like 2 cell swords, or like 4 cell swords, and so on. So that's kind of about the new cards. Then we have cash-in. In my opinion, cash-in is definitely going to be a staple in Kassai, because cash-in basically achieves the same thing like the Royal Crown and Gorganian Tome, but much better. Because instead of pitching cash-in as a yellow in order to activate the gold token and draw a card, we're going to play cash-in, which is just going to draw us 2 cards. So we're basically getting one additional card off of the gold token, and we're probably going to be able to consistently be making gold tokens. And at that point, just playing cash-in is basically draw 2, gain 2 resources, right? On a 0 cost card. Feels insane to me. Feels absolutely insane. And yeah, like the rest of the deck I feel is kind of pretty standard right now. We will probably definitely be wanting Blade Runners, because they are an attack reaction that gives go again and then gives our next weapon something. We have Hit and Run that also is a go again enabler. We have like In the Swing, which is like an on-rate attack reaction on our second sword, but also blocks 3. We have like Outland Skirmish and Spoils of War that can generate as copper tokens. You know, copper tokens are going to be costing 4 resources in order to trigger. So we will need to be pitching 2 yellows in order to draw a card off the copper. So at that point we've basically achieved nothing, right? Like the moment we pitch an additional yellow in order to trigger Kassai's ability, we are not ahead in terms of resources. But we can definitely use that copper for cash-in, right? If we collect 4 copper, we can just use the cash-in on the copper instead of the gold. And we can definitely be using Blood on Her Hands. Blood on Her Hands is kind of not in my list at the moment. Not in the 60, because I'm not sure what to replace it with. Or rather like what to bring out, and also this is not tested, right? Like this is the very first draft, but I'm not sure how consistently and how many copper tokens we will be able to generate and make with like Outland Skirmish and Spoils of War, because at the moment it's only 9 cards in the deck, right? Like if we get something like Hit and Run, or something like Armourer Maltese, but hopefully costing 0, like another wager that allows us to wager a couple of copper tokens, allowing us to be able to kind of like consistently generate copper and gold in the same deck, allowing us to also play Blood on Her Hands, is going to be pretty dope. Because, you know, like playing Blood on Her Hands is amazing when we, like in Blitz, when we pair it with Courage of Bladehold. That basically makes our swords free, and we can start attacking with the swords for like 3 damage 2 times each and having go again and so on. But in a game like CC, that continues for like a much longer time, we can use Blood on Her Hands on like 6, 7, 10 coppers, right? And together with Kassai's ability, basically doubling down as an additional Courage of Blade Holds, we'll just be able to like play like 2-3 Blood on Her Hands during the span of the game, if we do indeed get some additional copper generation. Because with only 9 cards, I'm not sure we're going to be able to consistently create enough copper in order for Blood on Her Hands to be consistently amazing and consistently playable. There's also the possibility of Blood on Her Hands not needing to be consistently playable and amazing, right? We can probably just play like Blood on Her Hands as like a singular copy, or like as 2 copies in the deck that are meant to be seen like at the end of the game, when we have gone through all of our spells of wars and outland skirmishes, and by going through all of the cards we have amassed like at least 4 copper tokens, and at that point we, you know, like second cycle, we finally reach the Blood on Her Hands and we pitch a yellow for a gold, and we can just play like a traditional Blade Hold Blood on Her Hands turn at that point. Maybe that's going to be the way of doing it. Starting Stake is an interesting card. Starting Stake is an interesting card. It's a yellow, it's a block 3, so it kind of fits the curve of wanting yellows and wanting the yellows to be able to block in order to just block with them, so that we can just banish them from the graveyard next turn. It also just creates a gold token if we no longer have a gold token, right? So we can just play this at the end of the chain, right? If we go pitch a yellow, draw a yellow, now for the gold, now the swords are free, and we go like go again, enable attack with the sword, buff attack with the sword, and our 4th card is like Starting Stake. We can just play the Starting Stake, create another gold, and now we have essentially played like 3 cards this turn, and we hopefully have like a 4th card in the graveyard for next turn. And next turn we'll be able to, even if you don't have a card in the graveyard for next turn, we'll be able to next turn, because we still have a gold, just pitch a yellow for the gold, draw a card, play a buff or a go again enabler. It's going to immediately go to the graveyard. We're going to then be able to banish those 4 cards for the on-hit ability of Kassai, attack with something, hopefully it hits, and we continue this gold generating streak, which seems to be exactly what you want to be doing with Kassai, kind of never missing a turn where you can pitch a yellow in order to crack a gold and make your swords free. And in that vein, I feel like a card like Trade In, a very innocuous common from Uprising, can actually be pretty good in the deck. It's a 0 cost for 3, it has go again if we play it from the arsenal, which is what we're going to be aiming to do anyway. But it says when you attack with Trade-In, you may discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. So if we manage to finish with this card in our arsenal, next turn, even if we don't have a gold token, we're going to be able to just start with Trade-In, discard the card, which also benefits us because we want to have a certain number of cards in our graveyard in order to banish them and use Kassai's ability. And then we're going to draw a card, which is going to trigger our other ability, making our swords free, so it kind of... this card does everything, right? It's kind of hard to use because the moment we see it, we won't be able to use it. We can technically use it at like the end of the turn, but that does absolutely nothing other than just adding an additional card into our graveyard, if we need that, I guess. But the majority of the time the idea will be to just arsenal this and then start our next turn as if we had a gold token. So yeah. When all the cards come out for Kassai, I'm honestly hoping that the deck is good enough and consistent enough that it doesn't need trading as a supplementary engine. I hope that the deck is good enough that it's going to be able to kind of generate gold consistently enough by itself. But if we can't do that, then trading is, I feel, definitely one of the better candidates of cards that allow us to draw. Obviously, Gorganian Tome, in my opinion, is like way more superior, but trading is definitely good. A bad thing about Gorganian Tome is that it's not actually a yellow card, right? It's speechless, so we can't even banish it from the graveyard for Kassai's ability, but yeah. We obviously have cards like Stroke of Foresight that, as a reprise, allow us to draw a card and then put a card on the top of our deck, or the bottom of our deck. So this can, sadly it's an attack reaction, so we kind of need to pay for the first sword and then we can play Stroke of Foresight, making the second sword free, which is not ideal, but it's still something, and kind of like the same thing goes for Glint the Quicksilver, which also only triggers on reprise. So both of these only trigger on reprise, but they do draw us cards. So they, as an attack reaction, they do make at least the second sword free. In terms of more cards that I'm considering is like obviously more Outland Skirmishes if we really need more copper, more cash in. Like if the deck is able to consistently produce enough copper and or gold, cash-in is going to be amazing, right? Like if the deck is in a situation where it can consistently create a gold every turn or every other turn, cash-in is going to be amazing and it's going to make for like one of our most pop-off turns. Despite Pilgrimage, it's kind of bad, to be honest. I mean, the good thing is that it allows us to attack with the weapon another time, and when the weapons are free and have go again, then it's kind of like threatening an additional 2 free damage, which is kind of good. But I hope we have like enough better pumps that we don't have to play this one. Iron Zone Determination is something that gives us Dominate, which might turn out to be like very good whenever we are so dependent on our weapon hitting whenever we trigger Kassai's ability. And it's also a yellow card, so it may actually make its way into the deck. And this Rounds on Me is another blue card that is not that bad, you know? In a meta with like a bunch of ninjas, like Fi and so on, where this Rounds on Me is going to be preventing like at least 4 damage off of your opponent, and it's also going to trigger your ability, so it's basically going to give you 2 resources and then basically prevent the same amount of damage that you're giving them. It's going to be nice, I guess. The problem here with this Rounds on Me is that maybe they will not be looking to do damage back to you when you use this Rounds on Me on them. Maybe they'll just use this additional card in order to block a lot on your attacks this turn, so you cannot create your gold token. And if that's the case, then this Rounds on Me is it's probably not going to be amazing, but it's definitely one of the more playable cards that read draw a card in them. Next, I have Iron Song versus on the arms equipment, but now that I think about it, the other arms equipment is probably going to be better, because we already have threatening home hits, right? We do not need additional on-hit threats, because this is just going to make it even more worth it for our opponent to block our shit. So just having +1 on our second swing, making it even harder to be blocked, in order to make it even harder to stop us from generating gold is most definitely going to be the play. Valiant Dynamo is absolutely going to be amazing. I can't wait for this card to wreak havoc in CC, basically giving you 1 health every turn, and CC is a game that's going to be lasting like at least 10 turns, a vast majority of the games. Obviously depends on how fast the meta is, but even if it's like 45 turns, getting like 45 health out of Valiant Dynamo is going to be amazing. And seeing how Kassai's ability doubles up as a creature blade hold anyway, I hope that they do release a new like legendary warrior chest that does something else, right? Helps us in another way, just so we do not have like basically the same effect twice. So that's about it. Do tell me about how you envision the deck, and what do you think the ratio between go again enablers, buffs and attack reactions has to be, because I honestly have no idea. And yeah, that's about it. Bye bye, see you later.